year. So I have a computer, a folding picnic table, and a printer, and some piles of paper on the ground. That's my garbage. And in case I get tired, I got a little nap pad. And this could be my classroom for the year. I'm glad you're joining us today, and I really look forward to the new school year. Can't wait to see what you got going on in your classroom. All right, is there anybody that would love to show us what your classroom looks like right now, or your home office? If you want to take a second to turn on your video and unmute your mic and then just share with us.
This is mine. This is Carmen. I'm in Amherst County, and this used to be a closet room, and this is it. There's furniture behind there, some totes, but I do have a real desk. I'm just sitting at it.
Nice, thank you for sharing. Anybody else have a pretty awesome classroom this year?
I've found this background. My classroom has been the same way for 8 months because I'm also a full-time student and doing classes, so it was just a mess. But I love these backgrounds. They work great.
Wow.
I actually will go to my school this coming year. They said even if we go 100% virtual, right now we're going to do a blended thing where half of the kids come 2 days, and then we have a day in the middle, and the other half come 2 days. But teachers will be expected to be there all 5 days. They said even if something happens and we do go all virtual, I will actually go to my classroom at school.
Wow. All right.
And I'm Renee, and we're doing almost the same thing as her. This is my classroom. I came in here to use the Wi-Fi. So this is what it looked like right after we left. We had to pack things up. You see up by the window. I'm in a special ed classroom, so my room's not set up, and I can't really walk around right now. But almost all the other classrooms are set up, and there's only 6 to 8 chairs or desks in a room. My room is going to be a little bit different because they're letting me use tables. So it's going to be different, but our parents also have the option to go 100% virtual if they choose to.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your classrooms. We're going to move next into some class announcements. So what have been some wins for you lately? Is there anybody that wanted to share one of your wins lately?
Hi, it's Whitney. I would say a win for me, because I've taken, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've done all the 6 Google stuff. So I'm feeling a little bit, I think, maybe connected with the kids. They're very more tech savvy than I am. So I teach special ed, English, freshmen. And I also have a daughter who is high functioning autistic. And so I feel like I can maybe help her more too. So
great win. Yeah. Some other wins out there.
Hi, this is Cheryl. I kind of have the same sentiment. I've had wins with the technology because before, being with kids all the time in the classroom, there weren't opportunities to take webinars, workshop, or courses. And now with the situation, I've had the opportunity to take these workshops and actually learn the technology and try to catch up with the kids.
All right. So
Hi.
one more. Yeah, one more. Absolutely.
Hi, this is Katie. I'm a speech language therapist in secondary schools, and it was great because the kids actually helped me with a lot of technology, and I got a lot of instruction from the kids on how to use a lot of things. But I would say a win for me has been I have had a lot of kids communicating with me already, so to make sure I would know the days that, whether they were A days or B days, and the things that they felt that they would need some assistance and accommodations for. So I consider that a win, that these adolescents are actually value what I've been able to do for them during COVID-19.
Awesome. Yes, that is absolutely something to celebrate. Thank you, Katie, and everybody else for sharing. Throughout our session, we will be taking some time where you'll need to exit the Zoom window. So if you've been in any of our sessions before, this would be a great time for you to practice. You'll notice when I go to share my screen, it takes up probably your whole computer screen. So just take a second and hit escape on your keyboard to exit the full screen view. And John is going to be our fabulous moderator today. Whenever we have a link or a website you need to go to, John's going to take that link and put it in the chat so that you can click it or copy and paste it into your web browser. So that's a good way to get out back and forth. And we'll try to do a good job of when you're looking at something, not also having to look at Zoom at the same time, because with only one screen, it's sometimes hard to share real estate. And I just can't do this slide because this is Adam. So Adam, I can't wait to hear this from you.
Oh, thank you. I know this is the first time you've heard it, Eric. All right, so throughout these sessions, it's become very important that we kind of ground ourselves in what matters. And a big part of that is grace. And we're all, hearing from some of you that you've taken 6, 8, however many of these courses. Offer yourself grace. You're getting a lot of new content, a lot of new ideas, and everything may work out great. It may still show some challenges, so offer yourself grace. A couple minutes ago, my 3-year-old was banging on the door, and because I'm not leading this session, I could have my mic muted, but that type of thing might be happening at your school or your home as well. So grace towards one another too. John and I are both going to be in the moderator chat. So if you have questions, we're both here to help you. Please put those in the chat and we'll help you as soon as we can. Try something new. Eric has put together amazing resources. And my challenge to you is pick 1 or 2 that you can really start to implement in these coming weeks and really let those be the focus. And we will have some time to reflect as we go. Know that not everything may go, as we said, it may not be perfect, but continue trying because our kids are worth it. Our session is being recorded. And if you like this session, if you are thinking through, hey, this would be helpful for one of my classmates or someone I teach with, pass it on, pass the slides on, whatever it is, pass the skills on. And we want this to continue to spread. And finally, we're all in this together. We're serving one another. And that's it, Eric. How'd I do? Was that good for you?
Honestly, you should have just recorded it because this is like 30 times you've said this. Like it's like a recording now. It's awesome.
Oh.
And each time he says it, it's sincere and
So
people
that's
feel
actually
comfortable. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And you're doing the same thing, Eric. So thank you.
Yeah, like that's a reason not to record it, right? Because that's a pretty personal slide to share with people. All right, so what we do is we go to the experts when we need advice and ideas. So for those of you that filled out the survey ahead of time, and I know some of you probably didn't get it or see it, that's all right. But for the people that did fill it out, here's some advice on community building. If you want to take a second and read those. So I picked these 3 quotes very purposefully. Would anybody like to share the significance of those 3 quotes?
Well, I think the one that talks about maintaining positive relationships with families is super important because we really need to rely on the families, especially if we're going to be all virtual or partially virtual. We're not there with the students, so having that family support is going to be a really important piece, I think, this coming year.
It includes students, the families, as well as our teams, our teachers that we work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all three of them, including taking care of ourselves, those are all going to be those key components before we can do anything else this year. So just think about ways over the summer that you've been continuing your community with like friends and family that are far away or your coworkers. And even just in these sessions, those of you that were here this morning, we just did a ton of community building activities together. So before everything, focus on the community. Now, I love that everybody is sharing what their school is planning on doing in a month. And it's great because every district is on such a different place. Now, I want to show you a cool feature that if you have the ability to share slideshows with students with internet, just to make it a little more personal, is up here in this top corner, I've recorded audio for this slide that students could just click it and play it and pause it as many times they'd like. So let me just show you how that feature works.
Based on the guidance from the Virginia Department of Education and their plan for safely reopening schools, we are currently at phase 3, but there has been some talk that we may be pushed back to phase 2. So as you can see, starting pre-COVID was the old normal. And then if Virginia is in a phase 1 or phase 2 state, special education, childcare for working families, or those plus K through 3 students, English learners, and summer camps and school buildings. We remain in phase 3. All students may receive in-person instruction with strict social distancing measures. And once we get beyond phase 3, we will have what we call the new normal. So it's hard to even tell just a few weeks before school starts what phase we're going to be in. So what we want to do is prepare you for in-person, but also blended with some online learning. All right, so to do something like that, where you can add in some audio, let's pull up this slideshow. And what I really like about that is because I personally am just a huge fan of asynchronous learning. Just giving people the ability to learn on their own time and at their own pace and being able to pause it, I think is just so powerful, especially with what we're doing now. So the first thing I had to do was record my audio, and Adam is going to show us a real easy way to record videos and audio later. And once I've recorded that audio and I have this slide up here you go to insert, and if you've used slides, you've probably put in images and videos before, but I just picked audio. And what it's doing is it's looking in my Google Drive for audio files. So whatever way you record it, just make sure it gets put in your Google Drive and give it a good name. Mine's moving very slow today, my internet. There we go. And so there it is, it's my MP3 that I recorded. And then when I put it in there, it just gives me that little bubble. And I like to put it in the corner so that my students will know to look in that corner for audio. At other points, you saw I already recorded a video of my home office because I thought that was something that would be best visual. Here we go. All right.
So sort of the breakdown is we're gonna just do a quick talk about what blended learning is. And then we're gonna get into the different tools and strategies that you've suggested to us, and then some that we wanna recommend. So we'll do some general tools, and then I think K through 2 and elementary is a real special grade level. So we wanna really touch on what works well for that, some digital whiteboards, audio, video, some engagement tools, alternative assessments, and feedback. That's kind of how we're going to break down today. And this will also be a way that you can come back later when you're like, oh, what was the whiteboard tool that they used? And you'll be able to find it as this, almost like your technology tutorial guide that you can come back to anytime you need to. And we're going to show you a lot of great tools. Adam and I just met last night and we're like, you know what? Let's pare it down and only focus on the essential tools. And even that is a lot of tools if you've never used these before. So a big message we want to send is, this is John, he's our moderator, and he is drawing. John, what are you drawing here? Do you remember? With virtual reality?
So I was using Tilt Brush to color something. I don't remember exactly what it was.
So virtual reality, it's amazing, right? It'd be great if we could get this in the hands of our students, but we are in a kind of a tough situation now. So like Jessica says, we really need to be flexible and realize that for a lot of our families, we're just going to be sending hard copies of materials home. And even with the limited tools we're showing you today, just have realistic expectations that your goal is how can we reach the students that we have, and not necessarily what are all the cool technology tools that we can put in front of them. And that's going to help make our planning a lot easier. It's going to help your students not get frustrated. And then it's also going to help families that are going to be there to support those students at home. All right, so let's get started with some blending learning activities. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a few minutes and we're all going to watch this video together. And while this video is playing, here are some questions for you to think about while it's playing. And by the time we finish, John will have a link to a Google form for you. And so that's the way that if you were doing this asynchronously, you can still put in a question or two and get those responses from the students, and you don't have to be together as a class. So they could complete this on one of those at-home days or before you meet for your Zoom session. So we're gonna watch this video, and John will have that link in the chat for you to fill out when it's done.
Today I'm going to be talking about blended learning environment and what is blended learning. First off, it's a fairly complex model, so I'm going to divide my presentations in two parts. Part one, I'm going to talk about what is blended learning in general, and part two will be about the benefits of such a learning environment. So, part one, what is blended learning? Well, it's a combination of two models. The first one, we all know it. Teacher, students, a regular classroom setting with the board. Basically, the teacher is delivering content and leading the instruction. It's a traditional model that has been in place for a long time, with the teacher facing the students and the students facing the teacher in a brick and mortar school setting. This model is called a face-to-face model since we are facing each other in the physical world. So this is the first component of the blended learning, that very traditional model of instruction. Now something happens, and we all know it. It's called internet, and that changed a few things. Now students can access content online, cloud-based, which means they do not need to be in school anymore to access instruction or to actually work together with a teacher. And that changed a few things. They can work at home, in a coffee place. They can actually almost work in the school bus on the way to school. Wherever they are, as long as they have internet, they can access that content. This model is called online teaching, since you are learning and teaching online. It's a very common model in higher education these days. So, what is blended learning? Well, it's a combination of those two models, the face-to-face model and the online teaching model. Now, let's have a look at an example. you're going to have students watch your presentation, and they can be watching that presentation on blended learning, for example. With cloud-based devices, they do not need to be in school anymore to hear your lecture. They can watch your presentation pretty much anywhere and wherever they are, as long as they can access that content. And then you can have a discussion on that presentation in school with the teacher, monitoring the exchanges and leading higher thinking activities. This is not just about discussions though. It could be a group project, it could be a writing assignment. All those tasks can be conducted in both environments, face-to-face in school and/or online on internet. Blended learning is a combination of those two models. So what blended learning is about is how much you want your teaching to happen online and how much you want it to be face-to-face. It could be a teacher or a school decision as well. What matters the most though is to create a community of learners where students can exchange, discuss, and work together on both environments, face-to-face and online. What are the benefits of such a learning environment? Well, this is going to be part 2 of the discussion, and you can find that presentation on my YouTube channel or on my blog. Thank you for watching. Au revoir.
So if you look in the chat, John has posted that exit ticket for you to complete. If you want to take a minute to do that. Has everybody had enough time to open up the form and submit it? All right, Adam, do you want to tell us a little bit about that Google form?
I would love to, Eric. So we were using, are you guys, you are seeing my screen right now? Good. So we used a very simple Google form template, exit ticket. And I know some of you were in my session yesterday. So in here, we can see that we have 59 responses so far, 60, and that it is updating automatically. Down below, we get all of our responses in here that we can go through and read and just check for understanding. Again, a very simple template, and we'll see where we can find that in just a moment. So we wanted to make sure that we saw what those responses would look like and how we'd be able to go in and see. So right now we're in the summary, but I could also go to individual and be able to select, well, I want to be able to see, we'll see 32. And this is Lisa's, and we can go through and see her response to check for individual understanding as well as collective. So what we're gonna do now is on slide 14. You'll notice that there is a link on here about exit slips. So when we click on exit slips, it takes you to this page where you can get a copy of the template. Use template. And this is just a very easy exit ticket that's built by Google to be able to customize and then be able to use with your students. So you can, even though this template has questions for name and email address, you may not need your student's email address. If you needed to, you could remove that question. You can adjust any of these question stems that are already in there to reflect what you've learned that day, or maybe you just want a general check for understanding, and you can make that happen too. So again, to make these changes, we're going to click on any of our question stems. By default, it's one important thing you learned in class today. And we could change this to what was one surprising fact from the video / podcast, and then put our question in. And when we're all set with making the changes that we want to do, we can share this with our kids through Google Classroom, through going up to where it says send and getting them this link, maybe posting on a website or having that shortened link in our presentation like Eric's been doing. So again, very easy way to be able to go in and make our exit tickets, adjust them, customize them to meet our kids' needs. Some other quick things that we have on this slide. We do have a video on a very quick tutorial on how to use Google Forms, and then we have a link for the session on forms that we did yesterday. So if you did not join us for that, if you click that final link, it's going to take you to the resource page. On there, you can access our slides and an entire session recording from yesterday that you can refer to if you choose to do exit tickets with your kiddos. Back to you, Eric.
Thank you, Adam. All right, so another way that we could provide a lot of asynchronous learning to students with not a lot of pressure to them. Like you saw there, all you guys had to do is just submit one question about what was something interesting. So it wasn't really for a grade or it wasn't like a quiz. It was just a little check. And then when they are able to meet with you via Zoom or in person, you can do a lot more active engagement. But here's another thing that you could, it's an article. And in this article from Cult of Pedagogy, there's also an audio button at the top because they recorded the interview. We're not going to spend a ton of time with this article, so you may not have time to read or to listen to it, but you will have 3 minutes to skim it. If you need to take a break now, this is also a great time if you need to just step away. But John is going to post this shortcut link to the article, or if you have the slideshow open, you can click it. But this is a good time to hit escape on the keyboard. And we're just going to, on our own, look at 9 ways online teaching should be different from face-to-face. So if everyone could take a second to get the article up. And John has posted his link there. Just a tip that your students might run into, as well as some of you, when you're putting in a shortened URL like this, if you go to put it in your web browser like Chrome or Firefox, you have to paste these at the very top in the place where the URL is. If you just put it into a Google search, it won't bring up the website. All right, we're gonna start the 3 minutes now. We've reached the 3-minute mark. So if you want to finish up the section that you're on and then come back to the Zoom window. And then if you could just throw one quick bullet idea into the Zoom chat. All right, a lot of really good bullet points coming in from people. So if you take a second to read through some of those in the chat. Also, the chat is here for a reason. Keep it running, have side conversations, ask each other questions, share and compare. That's what the chat's for. It's a little back channel while we're going through the presentation. So use it to its full extent. All right, so in the spirit of simplifying and slowing things down, we thought 9 was a little too many. So we kind of condensed that article into just 6 main ideas. And this is something that I might want my students to take notes on, but I know some of my students will almost verbatim copy the whole article down. And so to help them see what's the most important parts, I've just simplified it into 6. And that's community building and digital competencies are those 2 key ones to do before anything else. And just in the spirit of giving ourselves grace and everybody grace, we need to simplify and we need to slow down. We won't be able to do online learning the same way we would do in-class learning 5 days a week. If we do have the chance to be in person or on Zoom, that's what we'll call face-to-face, do as much as you can to keep it active. And if you have the ability, give a lot of that asynchronous work, like just reading an article quick or watching a video. And then really focusing on that feedback is what's tying into all of these. So it's simplifying the grading and it's helping to build that community. And then also summative assessments. We don't really want to worry about lockdown browsers and security, and a lot of the things you could just search on Google. So what you can't search is creating stuff. And so we're going to talk about how creations can help us see what students understand, but also it's going to give us that real world way of demonstrating it. All right, so let's jump in then. Ooh, thank you, Patrice. All right, let's go to the general tools and strategies that we've looked at. So where do you go for advice? Where do we go for advice? John and Adam and I all work in Albemarle County, and when we're looking at tech tools to use to see if they're safe, we always start at Common Sense Media. And that's because they're experts and they really focus on safety, appropriateness, and what happens with the student data. So that's a really great resource. John just posted the link in the chat, and that's where all those educator reviews are. What we do is we take those reviews and ideas, and we've created this database of technology tools for Albemarle County, but this website's public, so anybody can use it. We're about halfway done with filling in all the details, but it's a very usable tool and it'll be ready before school gets started. So if you're really ambitious and you're looking for tool ideas, you can come here. And if you want a content specific tool, you could click one of these buttons across the top, or you can go through and search keywords or by category. Grade level is a little iffy because we try not to limit a tool to just one grade level or just one content area. So usually these categories are the best. And then depending on what platforms you have at home. It just goes through and there's different tools that you can use, like Actively Learning is a great tool for elementary. We reach out to each other locally. Adam is the king of social media. He's always sending me links to something awesome he learned on Twitter, this person he knows across the US. And he really gets a lot of resources from that. And then, Adam, do you want to talk about the Chromebook App Hub while I pull it up?
I'd love to, Eric. So Chromebook App Hub, are you going to share your screen or you want me to take over for a second? You've got
I'll
it.
pull it up. That's
Okay,
fine.
cool. So the Chromebook App Hub is a project that I worked on with Google about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and we launched last summer. So with this resource, we're able to keep scrolling down for me, please. So with this, we have on the left here all these different apps, and we can filter to find the right one for what we're trying to do. So if we wanted to use, let's do storytelling. I can filter, then beneath that we can do by age level and really be able to find, let's do 610 or 810, whichever that is, and be able to find tools that would be helpful for our kiddos. Now, the other cool thing, if you go all the way to the top, it says ideas. And so if we want to come at it from, okay, well, I want to find a way to meet this instructional need, you can come at it this way too. Again, we have age range, but we can do idea category. So let's do multimedia creation. And then with this, when we click on Book Bentos, it's going to come up with, or click on any of these idea sparks, it's going to come up with, here's a lesson idea that you can use with your class. And this is Lisa Highfill, who is the creator of HyperDocs. So it's probably a pretty amazing lesson right here. But through here, it gives you an overview, tells you how to be successful, has videos to help you along the way, how you can meet different special needs that might exist, and just an amazing, amazing resource in here. And Shannon is endorsing Book Bentos. That's great. Thank you, Shannon. All right.
All right. Now, for some of these tools, your county is probably already decided for you. So for video chatting, whatever one you're deciding to go with, there are some
Eric,
differences.
there's a
in
really
features.
quick question. Can I address
Oh,
it
yeah.
real quick? So on the Chromebook App Hub, it has Chromebook in the title, but these are learning tools that are just online learning resources, and it doesn't really matter what device you're on. If you're on a Mac, a Windows laptop, whatever, you should be good. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, great question. And so it doesn't matter what video chat you're using. The main thing is make sure your county is all on the same page so that one class isn't using Zoom and another's using Google Meet, and then families and students are trying to flip back and forth, because the thing we need to do is keep it simple. So the thing that you do need to keep in common is only sharing those links with the specific people that need to join. And don't post them publicly anywhere, and make sure you password protect it. It's really good for social time too. So even just with you present, giving them time to lead the discussion and just to see each other, share their pets, that kind of thing is really great use of that time. And if you are taking screenshots or you're recording some of these sessions, you can't post them online publicly or on social media because of the student privacy concerns, especially with age limits. So if you are recording them, like keep them strictly in your Google Classroom or something like that. Again, with your learning management system, whatever your district has decided to use, or if they haven't, you should talk to somebody and say, hey, we need to all use the same one, because we don't want people going to Schoology for math, Google Classroom for science, and then just a website for another. So really keeping things consistent. Don't assume too that they know how to use your Google Classroom. So record some of those tutorial videos on how to complete the work and submit stuff. Really give those good, clear directions, especially for asynchronous stuff. And one thing that I'm working on with the school right now is how to consistently name and organize our classes. So week 1, week 2, week 3, or unit 1, unit 2, whatever it is, try to be consistent, especially in the naming, so that everybody can get on, and somebody like a parent that's not in your class can look and see exactly what this file is or what this video is supposed to be for. And if you're lucky enough to be using one of these, they all have built-in communication tools. So use it, right? We have coworkers and family and students that we need to keep in touch with. And if we just keep it in one place, it's going to make it easier for everybody. If you need to do other forms of communication, just safety, save copies. And if you're messaging students directly outside of a learning management system, then include the family member with the students. Somebody mentioned a point from the article is setting some hours for yourself so that there's no expectation of 24/7 support from you. So think about what that might look like for you. 12 to 4 every day, they could email you or text you using maybe Remind or Talking Points or Google Voice, and provide different formats, video, email, text, just like we will when we're working with our students. Talking Points will, if you haven't heard of it yet, Talking Points is a texting app, a website, and if I type something in English and send it to a family, they can choose what language they want to receive messages in. So they might receive it in Spanish. They can reply in Spanish and then send it back to me, and I receive it in English. So just think of all the ways that you can reach your families and your students. And then here's some great advice for working on the digital competencies for your class. From Ashley, Talking Points is free. I'm not sure if there's a limit to it or not, but I know I've used it before, and for the amount I was using it, it was free. Now, whenever you're doing some form of translation, you have to think about how it's going to translate into another language, and they don't all have the same structure to the language as we do. So keeping it as simple and straightforward as possible so that when it translates, it's very simple, small, translate over, boom. So we'll start with, this says pre-K through 2, but these are just best practices for everybody. So Sabrina, in the spring, Sabrina was just trying to survive, and it was more about checking in on the students' well-being than it was teaching content. Did anybody else have a similar experience as Sabrina?
Hi, this is Kim Davis. I as well had a similar experience. A lot of my students did not have the proper technology, so I was Zoom classes 3 days a week, but it was very common for me to only have 2 or 3 kids out of my classroom of 17 show up. So I would follow up with texts and emails to families, and even I had several families I only heard from once or twice in the roughly 2.5 months. You know, we continue to try to have schools. So yeah, the fall, I look forward to a much more rigorous activity, hopefully. My district, I teach in Henrico, is more actively trying to get the technology out one-to-one for students. They did allow for the technology to go out to our families, but it was one per family, and most of my students were siblings and had like not just one sibling, but several other siblings. So also competing for that screen time to communicate was very difficult.
Awesome, thank you for sharing, good. So to prepare for the fall, we're gonna wanna, and this is for everybody, keep it to as few tools and resources and formats as possible. Focus on those basics that don't, especially for K through 2, that don't require a lot of clicking and window switching. For those that have used or know about Seesaw, that's what we use for K through 5. And we've gotten really good feedback that it's easy to learn and we can we can do most of what we need to in there. And then if you're using Zoom or Google Meet, just share your screen. If you are going to do breakout rooms, put them in and pull them back out automatically, or pull up the whiteboard to try to keep everything you can all within that Zoom. And like Sabrina did the right thing. She was focusing on checking in and their well-being because that was what was important, more so than the content. So think about that, and also just do whatever you can to make it fun for them if you get that chance to be together. And some advice on simplifying and slowing down. And I love Chip's enthusiasm, and he's got it. It's doable no matter what resources are available or not. We can make it work. We're teachers. We're the masters of making it work. All right, so from the very basic end, this should be an essential is a digital whiteboard if you're able to work remotely with students. So on Zoom, I am going to draw you a picture. And to do that, I'm clicking on my share screen button. And one of the options that pops up is a whiteboard. So I'm going to do that. So let's try to draw the Zoom logo. So with Zoom, I can draw on the whiteboard. But what I want is I want you guys to be able to share ideas. So the other digital whiteboard option that we recommend is Google Jamboard. So this would be a time where you would hit escape to exit full screen, and we'll get that link in the chat for you. All right, the link is there. So if you want to click, go to that link, that's going to go through Google Jamboard. Now for these links, the easiest thing is to copy it and paste it at the very top of your Chrome or your Firefox, at the very top where the address bar is. And then here's the direct link.
Hey, Eric, I think we need to, you might need to share your screen, buddy.
Oh. There we go. Thank you, Adam. Somebody's drawing on us. At least they didn't add a mustache. So Jamboard's great. I can have these pages already prepared ahead of time. with whatever directions or information I'd like on there. And then I can have the class put up little Post-its with information they can change the color of, or they can draw. And notice the different backgrounds as well. You can change the backgrounds for each frame. And if you've made it to slide 5 already, that's for all my math teachers out there. It's a good way to do some handwritten math. All right, let's get some cute dogs and pictures up there. All right, so if everybody could come back to the Zoom window. What's great about these Google tools is they just give you a limited number of features, which keeps it simple. So if everyone's back here at my screen, I can go up to background and change it to 7 different options. Or the 3 dots up here by share. It'd be a great tool to share with students, and then they could download their whole Jamboard as a PDF or save it as an image, or they could just share it with you. So I think a lot for math homework, you could have the problems set up and then they could do their work and then share it with you. All right, so we're back. Jamboard is pretty straightforward. Adam has put a link here for some really good templates to explore, but we're gonna leave this slideshow will be available afterwards, so you can come and find Jamboard if you're thinking that might be a tool you'd want to use. And there's a tutorial video how to use Jamboard. It's right from your Google Drive. Some getting started tools, and then those templates that'll help you. The other essential is how to record audio and video. So Adam is going to show you some of his favorite simple tools for recording video and audio.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to rejoin for this part. So when we're looking at some of my favorite tools, the very first one that Eric and I were thinking through was Screencastify. Now on slide 32, just a couple things to keep in mind. We want to make our recording simple. So the main tool that we're going to be looking at is one called Screencastify that is a Chrome extension, so that we can use it whenever we're online. Now, also with this, this extension limits us to only 5 minutes, but I like being limited to 5 minutes because that makes sure that I'm concise and I talk about what I need to. So with this, you may want to get a cheap headset to get better sound quality, or a cheap webcam. I recently bought a new computer and had to get a webcam to go with it. Neither of those things ran very much. Screencastify is an extension that we can install into Chrome, and it looks like this little guy up here. So play arrow with a video camera on it. And when I'm ready to use it, I'm going to click my icon and it will come up with these different options in here. I can do just a browser. I can only use a webcam. I can share my entire desktop. I can pick which microphone to use and which webcam to use. And when I'm all set, I'm ready to hit record. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and record. One of my favorite ways to be able to engage with students is being able to make a short video that explains what the activity is, or to be able to give feedback afterwards where my face is included. I'm going to move this so that they can see me. It makes it very easy to be able to have that human element that we desperately need right now for our students. When I'm all done with my video, I'll hit stop sharing. And in just a moment, it's going to open up with a new tab where I can see the video that I recorded. Now in here, I can trim it. On the right-hand side, it lets me know that it is saving automatically in Google Drive, so I can go back and access it very simply. It gives me a link that I can post in Classroom and Canvas, wherever I'm going. I'm also able to put that video into multiple places. So I could copy my shareable link, put that video on here, or go to insert and find my video and add it to my slides as well. Now, something that Eric and I were talking about yesterday when we were revising this, this presentation, we have all these different ways to share our video, including share to Classroom, putting it on YouTube. But when we looked at download, we discovered this awesome option down here for exporting audio. So in our last session on this last week, we spent a long time trying to figure out what would be the best way, free tool to be able to allow people to record audio. And I think we found it here. So when we click on export audio only, it's going to download it as an MP3, which I can then put, like we saw in Eric's slides back here, I can put that audio file on my slides and my folks can listen to me or be able to watch me if I chose to do the video instead. So again, Screencastify, we have a short video on slide 33 that you can go back to, and we also have the link to be able to download it listed on 33 as well. Back to you, Eric.
All right, thank you, Adam. So I know we want to make things as engaging as possible, but we want to also do that simply. So one way that Adam and I and John have really spiced up our presentations is we use Slides Mania. So if you haven't had a chance to explore it yet, Slides Mania, and John will post that, or Adam will in the chat, but it's just about a collection of pre-made slide decks with different themes. And you can download it and edit all the different types of slides. So if you want to take a second to go to slidesmania.com, or you're welcome to just watch on my screen. They even have a great education section. So find the treasure. Adam, what was that like secret case files you had?
I'll have to go, I'll add that template in our chat. I'll have to remember where I found it. It might have been on a different site.
Yeah, so you can pick a theme and just help keep things a little more engaging for the students. And again, these slides are here so you can always come back. If you've been in any of the sessions before on Flipgrid, it's a really great asynchronous way of seeing each other. So we're going to do a little introduction. You are going to head to Flipgrid. If you want to click the link that's going to come up in the chat. And when you get there, you can click the green circle with the plus sign to post a new video, or you could reply to somebody else's video if you wanted to say hi back to somebody. That's up to you depending on how you want to use Flipgrid. Nice. We've got some nice responses. All right, we're getting some replies and some responses. Friendly faces. For those of you still working on your videos, if you'll get to a good ending point and either post your video, or you're always welcome to come back to this later. The link will be live in the slides, so you can come back and sometimes it's easier to practice it when we're not sharing screens as well. But so many smiling faces. This is great. I feel like I'm sitting in a classroom with all of you, even though some people are outside and some are actually in classrooms. Now, just one thing to mention is that at the top of this, Flipgrid has a lot of accessibility, like an immersive reader built in. And for this Giphy, I could have put in a video or a lot of other different media sources, especially you could embed a YouTube video. And for students that don't have internet access at home, they are able to record a video using their computer. And then if they are able to come and get Wi-Fi somewhere, they could then upload it at that time. But if you haven't been to one of the Flipgrid sessions yet, here's a good video about how to teach remotely with Flipgrid. And Flipgrid as well has a ton of really great resources. So please come back and use this slide as a resource for you. Share it with whoever would also be interested in using Flipgrid. And when it comes to any of these tools we can use during face-to-face or just different online engagement tools, it's about the verb and not the noun. So don't focus so much on the tool, but what do you want the students to be able to do that that tool is allowing them to do? Some of you may have been to our choice boards and hyperdocs sessions. There, we offered an intro one and a deep dive. So if you're interested in learning more about choice boards and hyperdocs, which if you create a great choice board, it's something you could print out to send home or keep it digital. But it's basically just an assignment that has some options for students to complete. And so it gives them some student choice. Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about choice boards and hyperdocs?
Yeah, I'll take a very brief amount of time to do that. So choice boards and hyperdocs are ways that we can differentiate for our students and be able to present our content to them in a way that honors who they are, what their strengths and interests might be. We do have one more session on choice boards and hyperdocs next Tuesday at 9 a.m. And we do have additional spots available in that. You can head to vascal.org. I'll drop the link in the chat if you'd like to join us for one of those sessions.
Okay, thank you. So in the spirit of student choice, we really should start getting creative about alternative assessments, because we don't want to have to worry about that lockdown browser and most things. They could just Google it. And if students can just look up that type of information quickly, then we want to get students to create things that they can't Google. So just from what we've showed you, how to record a video with Screencastify or with your computer or your phone, how to record audio using your computer, Screencastify, whatever tools. You could have them just demonstrate through sharing their screen during a Zoom session or just talking during it. And they could also create a quick Google site. Is a pretty easy tool for students to learn how to use. Or like a Google drawing, something like that as a poster, graphic design, or infograph. This is something I use throughout the year, even when I was teaching in person. And with each of these, I provide some form of rubric for what information needs to actually be included in each of these projects. That way they're still covering the content, but they have a choice in how they want to present it to the class. And if you come here after this session, you can click this link or the image to make a copy and customize it for whatever tools or formats would be best for your projects. And same with like Google Docs, slides, all of those. They're great resources that you can find on Adam's resource website, which is where all of these sessions are posted. Under the Vassal tab, you have all the sessions. And Google Sites itself, right? Adam chose to use a Google site because it's a really easy way to compile all his information. Same for students, right? So here's a quick tutorial and a link to the full session on Google Sites if you would want to use that as an alternative assessment. And thank you, Jessica. Last but not least is feedback. And Adam's gonna tell you a little bit about some rubrics that he likes to use.
Okay, so I'm a really big fan of rubrics. I know that that's a weird thing to get excited about. And let me switch to my screen real quick. Okay. All right, so I'm a big fan of rubrics, and one source that I really like is the single point rubric. And when I was in the classroom, I had very complicated rubrics, and there would be 4 or 5 different levels for each standard that I was trying to do. And it became confusing for my students, and it became pretty confusing for me. And so when I discovered the single point rubric from Call to Pedagogy, post that they had, I was instantly sold on it. And I loved what was going on with this simplified version. And so with it, we have our criteria in the middle. And on the left, we could type in, here are areas that our students can improve. On the right, here are ways that they've met that standard or exceeded the standard. And the good thing about it being a digital format, our students, when they fill it out, can put in artifacts that demonstrate their mastery of that level. So on our slides, on the left-hand side, it's a Call to Pedagogy example. On the right-hand side is an example of my own. And when you click on that link, it does give you the option to use the template. And with this, you can see how I chose to use it with a biology class I was working with. At the top, our students are putting the standards in their own words, explaining why they're learning it, and then how they know that they've mastered that concept. Then down below, they fill it out themselves, and then the teacher uses the information from the student and their own observation to be able to report back to the student about what their level of mastery is. If you're working with littles, here we have 3 standards that are in there. Maybe we only focus on one. And as we look at this top part, we fill that in together, and we can kind of do that I do, we do, you do type of model to scaffold this skill. Back to you, Eric.
Tracy says that setting expectations and giving quick feedback are important. If you are using Flipgrid, you have a lot of options for feedback. You can reply with a private video that only the student could see, or text. If you're using something like a Google document, you can leave comments, or you could just have a one-on-one video chat with them. But Mary Alice also had some great feedback about feedback, and that was that, you know, really if you're giving it to the students as an assignment, then they really should be getting feedback on it. So we'd like to give a huge thanks to all of our experts, which are all of you. You've contributed so many great ideas and shared your stories, and we've all learned a ton. Our moderator, John, has been amazing. I've seen really great discussions in the chat, and John's answering questions, posting links. So we couldn't have done this without John. And a huge thanks to Vasil, especially Pam and Liza, for their support with providing all of these sessions for free. And just getting John and Adam and I all together to be able to provide these. So I know we have, you know, a community of 100 people in here right now, but you're part of Vasil. So think about what a large community of support you're a part of. And in the spirit of feedback, we would love to know how we did and how we could improve for our next sessions. So if you could go to the feedback link that's going to be posted in the chat, please give us as much honest feedback as you can. And at the end, if you would like to receive a certificate for renewal credit, make sure you select so and double check your email, because that's how you'll be receiving your certificate for renewal. And since Adam has been recording this session, you will get an email later with a link to the recording of the session and another opportunity to leave feedback if you didn't get it this time. Are there any questions that people had? That we have about 5 minutes left that you didn't get answered in the chat or you're still thinking of? So thank you everybody for coming. It's been so great to share time together, getting started for the new year with you. If you did miss any of the sessions that we've previously posted or were full, go to that website and all the sessions are recorded for you. Good question, Kara. So what we've been doing for music is I just have a tab up with Spotify and I just play it in the background, and I have it so that my computer audio is being shared as well. So I can just click it and play it in the background.
All right. Well, Eric and I would like to thank you, and John, we'd like to thank you for joining us today and throughout the week. Please be well. Let us know if you need anything. Look out for an email from either Eric or myself later today that has the session recording and the feedback link in there as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks to you all.